We were at the beach and this guy, who was clearly on drugs, walked up to us and told us that the Holy Spirit of God had told him to have slow, passionate sex with each and every one of us. We're Christians, so we knew God didn't tell him that. Instead, we formed a circle around him and started singing, "I Want It That Way" by the Backstreet Boys, and the guy got really into it and started screaming out the chorus. We did this for about 10 minutes, and then the guy stumbled away. We turned around to see the entire beach staring at us. I want to add another one of my stories. We were at camp, and it was our last night before leaving, so my friends and I went to visit another room of boys. We walked in, and they all had their shirts off and started cheering and chanting, "Take them off." Over the course of the night, more and more boys packed into this one room, took their shirts off, and we'd go nuts every time more people came in. This started around 10 p.m. and ended at 2 a.m. Sometimes, if we're all at someone's house, we'll pack into the bathroom and reenact it. It's always fun. Story 1. In college, we would play a game called Birth. The guys would pull 2 of the dorm mattresses onto the floor, and a guy would climb in between the 2, thinking of a freshman sandwiched between 2 cheap twin mattresses. The rest of the guys would dogpile on top of the other mattress, and we would time how long it took him as he crawled his way out. Story 2. Went to Mexico with the boys, and after a day of drinking on the beach, we decided to swim in the ocean. We kept finding rocks until we found a rock about 4 feet long. It took all 6 of us to go under the water and lift the rock out and onto the beach, the whole time chanting and grunting like cavemen. Story 3. We used to go off-road on a 700-acre 4x4 park and also camp overnight. So a lot of times we would bring extra fuel. Well, more than once we had the fuel stolen when gas was $4 to $5 a gallon. One day, a few of us were at a large construction auction, and they put up a lot of around 35-gallon gas cans. Like, who in the heck wants that many at once? So we all chipped in and got the lot for about $40. After that, every time we went out, we would leave 2 of them sitting at camp with 4.5 gallons of water and half a gallon of gas. All summer long, people would steal them, put it in their vehicles, and then be out of luck within a few minutes when the engine stopped running. For just $20 to $25 each, we were able to completely stop all gas theft at that park. And we would laugh every time someone stole the sabotaged fuel. The owners of the park found out what we did and gave us the original investment money back in free admission for all of us. Story 4. 3 in the morning. Myself and 4 others were walking around our local park. They were putting new equipment in it and taking out the old stuff. There was lots of dirt and grass. We found a bobcat with keys in it. 1 person was driving and 3 were in the shovel. We drove around for a bit until we got bored. Story 5. Empty parking lot of a mall at like midnight. I was driving my 2000 Honda CR-V. All the windows rolled down and blasting pirate songs while my other 3 friends sat on the edge of the open windows, and we swerved around the parking lot pretending it was a ship at sea. Absolutely pointless, but at the time it was the funniest thing ever. Story 6. We had a beach party theme for the night that no one else but us was in on. We snuck pool inflatables and giant beach volleyballs into the bar by hiding them under our shirts and jackets and wore goggles, Bermuda shorts or bathing suits, lifeguard shirts, and so on. The bouncers and bar staff didn't know whether to be annoyed or amused, but everyone on the dance floor had a blast just bopping the ball around and playing with the inflatables. We just chatted with people, met girls, it was a fun night. Story 7. The boys and I had a little get-together at the rental place. We went outside to have a smoke, and the neighbors were doing the same. They were all our age, so we started chatting, and they mentioned they were moving in the morning. For some reason, we all decided to help them get packed. We smoked a few bowls, got some more beer, and proceeded to pack up the entire house. It was surprisingly fun. A few times, we found things like Nerf guns and got distracted playing with them, then went back to packing. It didn't take too long, and we left the TV and PlayStation 4 plugged in so we could play some games. Good times. I never saw those other guys again, but one of them gave me a tent he didn't want anymore, so that was cool. Story 8. Back in college, I had an apartment with my good friends. One day, we got high and started chanting and marching around like gorillas, banging our fists on the floor. This went on for an indeterminate amount of time until some girl who lived below us started banging on our door. I answered, and she screamed at us, asking, "What are you guys doing, walking around like gorillas?" She left, and we burst out laughing. Story 9. Kayak jousting, finding a beach, setting up camp, and getting lost in the forest for 2 days while eating mushrooms and smoking all of our weed. Literally the weekend right after, we went to a diving spot, not really a cliff, but it was a good 15 to 30-foot drop. We were jumping off and climbing back up. Now I have a friend, and I swear he should be dead by now. I've seen him get hit by a city bus, try to fight a deer with his bare hands, and he's even crashed numerous vehicles but ends up unscathed. I thought he was for sure done after seeing him tumble down the 20-something foothill, bouncing off rocks and trees on his way down. But he stood up, dusted himself off, and asked if anyone had a spare cigarette because he had a headache now. We've done some stupid things, but I'm amazed he has survived it all. He's currently working on getting certified for Border Patrol, and I can't think of a better man for the job. Laughing my ass off. Story 10. Playing a song my friend and I made on the ukulele called Garridos on New Year's Eve to a few police officers. We were drunk, high, and had just finished taking a couple of lines. The song was literally us yelling Garridos as if we were in a screamo band. Story 11. I was a young kid, and my dad took us down to Florida, one of those hotels that had indoor balconies overlooking an indoor pool. I met this other delinquent kid there. We became buddies during this vacation and got into some trouble together. We were hanging out on his balcony when we realized his balcony was directly over the pool. We came up with the idea to see if we could poop directly into the pool. We were probably 10 or 11 years old. Whoever had to go first would do it. He did and went into the bathroom, came out with a turd on a paper plate, pushed it off the plate with a plastic fork, and it plopped right into the water. And it sank right to the pool bottom. People were in the pool. Nobody noticed it. People occasionally came close to it, but never quite touched it while we were dying of laughter. Eventually, this old lady stepped right on it. It took her a minute to understand what it was, but she shrieked bloody murder. Everyone in the pool rushed out of the water like there was something dangerous in there. She was shouting and rinsing her foot off with a hose while everyone was standing around looking at one another with suspicion. Eventually, the blame fell on a little boy who was crying. I kind of felt bad about that. There was a table of teenage guys playing cards, and they were laughing so hard at the scenario, upsetting the old lady, that the card game had to stop because they were doubled over in laughter. Amazingly, nobody ever blamed us, even though we were laughing uproariously from the balcony. By the way, I am a mature adult and did not laugh, smile, smirk, or giggle one bit writing about this ghastly moment in my childhood life where I was obviously less refined, cultured, and mature. Story 12. There was an old abandoned factory not far away from where the boys and I lived, and we took a few pallets from there and dragged them to the top of a really steep hill behind it. We decided to play a game where one of us at the top of a hill would set fire to the pallets and roll them down at the others. The ones at the bottom would have to dodge out of the way. Obviously, you got more points if you waited until the last second to move. We also took a few squares of light sheet metal, maybe 15 centimeters across. In this game, each one of us had a stack of sheet metal and a stick. You'd use the stick to parry the sheet metal while trying to throw yours like a ninja star at everyone else. The game usually ended when we had too many close calls and someone gave up. There are so many more things like this, but these are my favorite memories. Honestly, I don't know how one of us didn't die before we turned 16. Story 13. Crowd surfed to the front of a mosh at a folk metal outdoor gig when the crowd was really widely spaced out. We'd been drinking mead all afternoon, and they decided to pick me up and just run me to the front, then throw me over the barrier. This happened a few times. Then we formed a worm, danced jigs, and stole each other's hats. Story 14. We tried to take my Buick Century, my first car when I was 17, through this dirt path in the woods that we knew of. We made it about 300 feet before it got stuck in the dirt. Terrified to tell our mothers, especially mine, what we'd done, we called each friend we knew to help us get this thing out. After 2 hours spent chugging energy drinks and brainstorming, and through the greatest feat of engineering known to us at the time, we built a road for the car to drive on using sticks, our shoes, and rocks we scavenged from the woods. We escaped with our lives, and my mother shall never know. It was probably my greatest memory from my teenage years, A bunch of sweaty, hyped-up teenage boys chanting and building a makeshift road at night in the woods. 10 out of 10. Story 15. I rode around Long Beach Island on an early 1980s Garelli moped that wasn't registered, towing my 3 buddies on longboards. Cops chased us. Good times. We also rode around on little 50 cubic centimeters Honda motorcycles at night, just running around the island. The cops really liked that. Story 16. Dumbest? Probably either fire soccer or wizard fights. Wizard fights involve shooting each other with the 10-shot fireworks. You can probably guess what fire soccer was. Thank goodness one of our scooters got stolen. We were already discussing nifty-50 jousting. Story 17. Back in college, one night we thought it would be a great idea to break into our college stadium and shotgun a beer at midfield. So we hopped the fence, shotgunned some beers, and threw up. Then, on our way out, we decided it would be a great idea to climb the scoreboard tower. As soon as we got to the top, 2 police officers with assault rifles were pointing at us from below. We had to all slowly walk down one at a time and were all handcuffed. We smooth-talked the officers and they let us go with a few citations. Story 18. Vegas over spring break with the guys. It was the first weekend of March Madness, celebrating my 23rd birthday, and a break from the grind of college in the Midwest. Granted, this was the early 2000s, so before the Hangover movies. Most of the daytime was spent in the sports books at Caesar's Palace and day drinking. There ended up being a small riot or fight breaking out between a bunch of college guys fighting over the outcome of a basketball game, or trash talking. I forget which. We left right as security was getting there. Went to see a Cirque du Soleil show while blazed out of my mind, then hit up Ghost Bar afterward. Supposedly, Britney Spears was there, and one of my friends got punched in the mouth by one of her security guards. Convinced some guys that one of our friends was the heir to the Miller Brewing Company, and they proceeded to buy us all our drinks. Then got a VIP ticket to one of the strip clubs, and I can't recall what exactly happened, but when I came to, we were at the Fat Boy Burger at 3 a.m., and my best friend was being applauded while screaming at the top of his lungs, "Fat girls need love too." I had on basketball shorts of a college I did not attend, and I had someone else's wallet stuffed with cash. Yeah, that was just Friday night too. We stayed until Sunday. Story 19. Breaking into the local school and shooting fire extinguishers at each other's 8-year-olds' faces. Turns out it will suffocate you. I swear to this day I almost died. 10-year-old me and my friends would just go around at 4 a.m. with a samurai sword and chop everyone's sprinklers in the local area and watch the water shoot up. As an adult, I've thought of the thousands of dollars in damages our foolish actions caused, and I feel bad about it. Story 20. We usually rented a soccer field near our school to play soccer after school. One day, when we were walking the path to the field, we decided to ring someone's doorbell and, if someone answered, say something silly and run. It was a long time ago, okay? After we rang his doorbell, the person buzzed us in without asking who it was. In the moment, it was scary and we ran. Story 21. At a cadet camp, we had a long rectangular room with staggered bunk beds. So our room leader, Michael, told us on the last day to push all the bunks onto one side. We made this giant bunk bed that was like 20 meters long, and all the mattresses were lined up, so we had this 20-meter long sleeping pile on top and below the bunks. Luckily, we had a super chill instructor. So when he walked in, he just asked, "What did you all do?" "Why? Fix it in 20 minutes when I come back." It was probably my favorite memory from cadets. I'm looking to join the Army soon, and though I know it may not be as fun as cadets, I hope it can be as enjoyable. Story 22. The riskiest and dumbest was probably sneaking off base while forward deployed in the United Arab Emirates. For reference, the United Arab Emirates is a dry country, so there is no easy access to alcohol. Naturally, we needed a pass to go off base so we'd be tracked and couldn't do anything stupid. So obviously, we did not get a pass and found a way to sneak off base. Cue us getting very drunk at a restaurant and singing karaoke like the dummies we were. The best part was daring one of our quieter guys to talk to this lady sitting by herself. Happy to say they hit it off and none of us went to jail. Story 23. Car surfing. Driving down country highways in the middle of the night, standing on the roofs or hoods of our cars and jumping back and forth between vehicles. I've done so much dumb stuff in my years. I'm surprised I'm still alive. Story 24. One time, my friends and I tried to take down a group of corrupt superheroes and expose the corporation that created and sponsored them. Needless to say, it got pretty wild. We crashed a boat into a whale. Classic. Story 25. Just before we graduated high school, my high school friends and I decided to go camping at a popular spot. If I remember correctly, we didn't have tents, probably some rope and tarps, but we had a bunch of beer. The next morning, we started up our campfire again and decided to see if we could make a bottle of beer explode. You take a beer bottle, drink half the contents, then force the cap back on tightly and throw it in the fire. Once the beer heats up, the bottle explodes. Sounds fun, right? We used a high alcohol by volume domestic beer, I think it was Bud Ice, and tossed it in. We waited and waited and waited some more. We could see it bubbling but no action. We got impatient, so we began throwing rocks at the bottle. Eventually, one of us got lucky, or rather, all of us. The bottle exploded, and when it did, it blew up our entire campfire. After a loud bang and a huge puff of ash, flaming logs went flying everywhere along with broken glass and the rocks around the campfire. Some logs flew far enough to land near the river about 30 feet away. Fortunately, no one was injured. I won't say this is the dumbest thing we did, but it ranks up there.